If you own a 986 Boxster or 996 911, chances are you will be faced with the air oil separator. In this video, we're gonna replace the air oil separator on our 986 Boxster. So with the engine off, here's the oil fill cap. This should just literally turn and it'll pop up on its own. But if your AOS has failed and the diaphragm is ripped internally, that causes an excess buildup of vacuum. And with the engine on, you will not be able to turn and remove this oil cap easily. And that's a telltale sign that your AOS has failed. These are the parts and tools you'll need for this job. For the replacement AOS, we're using the OE replacement from Febi Bilstein. This is going to install and operate just as the factory one did at one point in time. Because the kind of plastic corrugated breather hoses over time get brittle from all the heat cycling, we are going to go ahead and replace this top one. This is the Genuine Porsche part. There is not an aftermarket replacement for this as of yet. And to make life easier on attaching this hose to the engine, we are going to replace the bottom hose clamp with this one that has this slick little lock on it. So you can essentially just install this before the new one goes in, like so. And when you're ready to do so, you're just gonna pull this tab and that's gonna lock the hose clamp in place so you're not fighting it with the locking pliers or needle nose pliers. These are the tools you'll need for this job. Here we have our Schwab locking hose clamp pliers, which makes easy work of removing the old hose clamp from the old AOS. A 90-degree pick to help with some of these connections, since they can be tough to pinch and pull away just because they've been on there for who knows how long. A 10mm 1/4-inch socket on an extension and a 1/4-inch flex head ratchet, as well as these angled needle nose pliers for the top hose clamp that secures this vacuum connection. First thing you'll need to do is refer to our videos to gain access to the top of the engine. Once you've done that, we can kind of take a lay of the land here, and the AOS resides in right next to the plenum on the passenger side of the engine. So a majority of the job is going to be underneath the car. It's going to make your life a lot easier with what you need to access. We will kind of undo the bottom portion of the AOS from the crankcase and the hose, and then we'll go up top, undo the remaining connections and pull the whole thing out. So in order to kind of make room to do what we need to do, there's one 10mm bolt holding this harness for the oxygen sensor here. We do want to take that out so we can kind of push that to the side. That way we'll have better access to get this lower hose clamp on this tube going to the AOS and the two 10mm bolts that hold the whole unit to the crankcase. We'll come in with our 1/4-inch 10mm socket on a flex head 1/4-inch ratchet, undo this harness. Now this should give us some room here. Push this connection out of the way. Because honestly, the toughest part of this whole job is going to be getting to this hose clamp. We do have a replacement one that will make installation easier, but we want all the room we can get here to undo this. This is where our hose clamp pliers come into play. So here's our Schwab locking hose clamp pliers. It's basically like a bicycle brake cable that feeds down to these two sprung teeth. So when you squeeze the pliers around the ears of the hose clamp, they lock, and that'll save you from trying to dig around with needle nose pliers to undo the hose clamp, which could add a ton of time and frustration to this job. We'll sneak in here, line this up with the hose clamp, give that a squeeze. Now that we got our hose clamp locked on this bottom connection with our locking pliers, we're gonna just leave those here. So when we unbolt that from the side of the engine, we can lift the whole thing from the top and it should just pull right off. Now, If you didn't have the locking hose clamp pliers, there's basically two ways you could pull this hose clamp. The easiest would be just cutting the old hose, since the new one comes with it installed. And that way, when you remove the old AOS, you'll be able to just grab some needle nose, undo that hose clamp, and get rid of the rest of the hose. If that's not an option for you, you could just get 90-degree needle nose pliers and go up through the bottom and try to hold that hose clamp together while you remove the old AOS. You'll see this is the AOS right here in the engine, and there's two 10mm bolts, one up here and one down here, that we need to undo and remove. And we can go up to the top of the car, undo the connections up there, and pull everything out. For the crankcase breather that are attached to the AOS on the bottom here, we are going to move this wiring harness for the cam sensor out of the way. That'll give you a little bit more reach to pinch the top and bottom of this so you can release it and pull it away. So we'll do the rest of this removal from the top. Basically, we're gonna replace the hose in between the intake and the AOS, since over time, these are just heat cycled to death and they almost always break or crack when you undo these connections. So you wanna save yourself vacuum leaks that could cause issues later by replacing this, which is available in the link in the description, and it's part of our whole AOS replacement kit. So we'll pinch together the top and the bottom. You'll see those locking tabs spread apart, and you'll just be able to pull the hose from the AOS. You can see there's oil residue in here, which is also a telltale sign that this has failed. There should be nothing but air going back into the intake through this connection. We'll undo it from the intake plenum. Pull this out. Come here with some needle nose to undo this hose clamp. Squeeze the ears together. It's probably stuck. Kind of wiggle that. There we go. We're undoing the last connection on the side here, which is the same as up top. We want to pinch the top and the bottom to release these locking tabs on each side. But if you're unable to squeeze those together and get to this, you can come in with a pick and lightly disengage the locking tabs. So that came right off. Move that out of the way. So there is a nipple with a O-ring that seats into the engine case. That's where the oil drains back into the crankcase. So you can just pull towards the passenger side of the car to clear the engine case. And now we'll pull the whole thing up and out. Just like that. Before we put the new AOS in, we're gonna pre-install our bottom hose clamp. That should just slip over the hose like so. You wanna make sure you're past this lip on the new hose, and it can spin freely, but it's clearly in position. Installation's reverse of removal. We're gonna start by feeding this new AOS down, seating this in the engine case while also making sure this hose is seated properly. Now we're going to install our fresh new hose that goes from the plenum to the AOS with the one vacuum connection on it. Since this clamp has been on this hose so long, it's kind of indented into the rubber itself. I have seen on rare occasions, if you don't index this clamp right where it came off, you can make a vacuum leak, which you will chase forever, or until you smoke test it and see that, you know, this clamp's just a little bit off. So if you are reusing the hose, which you can in most cases, I like to just line up this hose exactly where it came off. These two connections will rest right on. Click this side in. This is where it's helpful to not have the AOS bolted back to the engine yet, because you will need some kind of wiggle room to feed this in here. Now that we have our clamp lined up, we can just pull on this, which will release it. Now we're ready to take our two 10 mils and we can bolt these back through our AOS into the block. That's gonna hold everything together. Now we'll take our remaining 10 millimeter bolt that holds the oxygen sensor harness to the block. Now you can see that the excessive crankcase pressure went away. We verified the repair by replacing the AOS. We do recommend changing the oil after this repair, and you can look at the link in the description on our tech video for changing the oil. Let's take a look to see why these fail. See why ours failed. There's the diaphragm ruptured, allowing all the oil to pass through into the intake. This is the outlet that supposed to send just air back into the intake. But if that's ruptured, it's basically just gonna suck all the oil up through the whole AOS and into your combustion chamber. Now you know how to replace your air oil separator, and you also understand why it failed. Come check us out at pelicanparts.com for more technical videos to show you how to work on your Porsche.